Hi, this is Dr. Kelley Mulhern from Thrive Wellness Center, and today we're going to talk about your immune system. This is a topic I get questions about quite frequently in my practice, especially right around this time with COVID-19. What is the immune system? How does it work? And what I keep telling my patients is that a strong and healthy immune system may be your most important asset. And it's also something that you have tremendous control over. So we're going to go ahead and talk about that today. Now, again, Thrive Wellness Center, in our office, we do functional medicine, regenerative medicine, IV nutrition, deep tissue laser therapy, chiropractic care, and physiotherapy. So feel free to check out our website for more information. A little bit more about my background. Dr. Kelley Mulhern, you can see that I have alphabet soup after my name. A few things that I like to highlight. First, I've been a member of the Foundation for Wellness Professionals for quite some time now. That is a 501c3 organization that is dedicated and committed to helping educate our communities and our individuals about health and wellness and options that people have. So I donate my time as a volunteer for them. In addition, by training, I'm a doctor of chiropractic, but I also have a master's degree in public health with a concentration in epidemiology. Now, what is that? That means that after I got my doctorate, I spent close to 2 years studying infectious diseases, epidemics, pandemics, viruses, bacteria, etc. So that leaves me a little bit better qualified than your average person on the street to speak to what's going on with COVID-19, as well as how these things work in the body. I'm currently enrolled in a postdoctoral certification in functional medicine. I'm a published author, and one other thing that I like to try to mention at this point is my mission. My mission is to help as many people as possible live lives that are happier, healthier, free of pain, and to do so without needing drugs or surgery if that is possible. So that's my mission, and to help me achieve my mission, I work in my practice as well as a volunteer for the Foundation for Wellness Professionals. So that's a little bit about me. Let's go ahead and dive right in. What the heck is the immune system? Now, the name itself, immune system, is almost a little deceptive because we don't actually possess an immune system like we think of other systems in the body. So, for example, our skeletal system is made up of bones. Our respiratory system includes our lungs. Our cardiovascular system has our heart and our arteries and our veins. We don't have one system that encompasses the immune system. So again, it's a little bit confusing for people. The immune system is actually the coordination and proper functioning of all the rest of your systems. Kind of tricky, but basically almost every system in the body has a role to play to keep your body healthy. So we're going to talk about a few of those as we go through. But big picture, the immune system is going to protect your body against invaders. Now, the technical term for invaders, or one technical term, is a pathogen. A pathogen is something that causes disease. It can be thought of as a germ, a virus, a bacteria, a mold, a fungus. So kind of the all-encompassing term is pathogen. Protecting your body against invaders is what the immune system does best. And again, it's not one system, it's the coordination and health of all the rest of your systems that are working together in harmony that provide your body with optimal protection. So a few examples. Our skin is considered an organ. It's actually the largest organ in the body, and that provides a physical barrier against penetration or against entrance into the body. It also secretes different things, such as acidic acid in your sweat, which can help destroy or negate a pathogen when it lands on your skin. We have our mucous membranes. So mucous membranes are found, for example, in the mouth, the throat, the nose, and they produce mucus. Not necessarily a fun topic to talk about, but mucus serves a really important purpose. You can think of mucus as being very sticky, and when a pathogen or an invader tries to gain entrance into your body, it can get stuck in the mucus. And then depending where that mucus is, let's say it's lining your throat, well, when you cough, you can cough up that mucus with that invader stuck in it. And so now it's out of your body. Or perhaps you swallow it and it goes into your stomach and the stomach acid can kill it. So again, mucous membranes, Kind of yucky, but they serve a really important purpose. Next are our tonsils. Now, some people have bad memories of their tonsils. Maybe they've been a real pain in the neck, quite literally, for a while, but they perform what we call immune surveillance. You can think of them like private detectives, and they're hanging out in the sides of your throat and watching as material goes by. So they're just watching, taking samples of it to see, is this safe? Is this an invader? Is this something that I need to alert other cells to, or is it okay to pass by? So that's what our tonsils do. Lymph nodes, again, we've all probably heard of lymph nodes. We have them in many, many areas of the body, and they are named for the area of the body they're located in. The lymph nodes also provide that surveillance. So as fluid and cells pass by, the lymph node cells are watching and making sure that, okay, that's safe. Oh, nope, that's somebody that we need to protect and defend against, and it'll raise the alarm. Inflammation, not a system, but that is definitely something that our immune system will use to help get rid of an invader, and we'll talk about that more in a little bit. Our white blood cells, we have several varieties, and they are so cool. Depending on the type of white blood cell, they can dissolve a microbe. They can inject it with acid and kind of dissolve it from the inside out. They can engulf it and essentially digest it. They can keep memory, so they can remember the different pathogens they've come across in the past and how best to assassinate them. So these white blood cells are nothing to shake a stick at. And then we have our microbiome. Now, the microbiome is actually located mostly in our gut. 80% of our immune system is actually contained within the gut. And that is something that a lot of people are becoming more and more aware of. People have heard of friendly bacteria. They've heard of probiotics and prebiotics and all that kind of stuff. But it's super important to take care of your intestinal health, your digestive health, because 80% of your immune system is there. And that makes sense because when you're eating food, if that food has a virus on it or bacteria on it, you really, really want your digestive system somewhere along the way to be able to combat that so that you don't get sick. Otherwise, we'd get sick a whole lot from food. Now, we're going to talk about some key terminology that people might hear about when there are conversations happening about the immune system. Now that we've covered kind of what are the parts of the immune system or some of the parts. So what are some responses to a pathogen or an invader? The first type is non-specific. A non-specific response is one that the body will do whether it's a virus or a bacteria or a mold or a fungus or an allergy. Doesn't matter, it's non-specific, but it's fast. So it helps protect your body as quickly as possible against a large variety of potential harmful attackers. So first, we've already kind of mentioned, is the skin forming a barrier. So kind of like this wall here you can see on the slide, that wall is going to protect whatever's on the other side unless there's a hole in the wall or a gap in the wall or a chink in the wall. So our skin likewise can protect our bodies as long as it is unbroken. If we have a cut, a scrape, a scratch, any kind of opening in our skin, that can leave an entryway for a pathogen to get into our body. So taking care of your skin, really important. Next, we've already mentioned a little bit about chemicals and substances that the body can secrete. So that includes everything from mucus to stomach acid to acid on the skin and other pH changes that can occur. Again, and it doesn't really matter what the invader is. This is just very quick and non-specific. Inflammation. Now, inflammation is a hot process. So we can see on the slide a picture of a fire. If you've ever had something that was inflamed, a cut, or you sprained your ankle and it got all swollen, that's inflammation. Inflammation can be the first step in the healing process, and it can also go on too long, and we've probably all experienced both of those. But inflammation is, there's heat, there's increased blood flow, but the interesting thing about inflammation is that it can locally make the environment very inhospitable for a pathogen. So let's say we have a cut on our hand and that cut gets inflamed. locally, the temperature of that cut is going to rise up as the blood flow increases, and the bug that might be trying to gain entrance says, you know what, I don't like this. It's getting too hot for me, and it either dies or it some other way is negated. Now, this kind of goes hand in hand with fever, because fever is also a hot process. If we look at most pathogens, because they kind of developed step by step with humans over the course of centuries and perhaps longer, they are mostly attuned to human body temperature. What does that mean? That means that so many of them propagate or reproduce the best right around human body temperature. Like, that's their favorite temperature. So our body, in its infinite wisdom, when we encounter a pathogen, one of the very first things it'll do is turn up the heat systemically with a fever. So little Johnny maybe has, an ear infection or a strep throat type of infection, and we think, oh my gosh, we've got to get that fever down. So we might do, cool compresses or some kind of over-the-counter type of medication to lower that fever. And we think, oh, goodness gracious, thankfully we've averted a crisis. But what we've actually done when we lower that temperature back down to normal is we've now made the environment much more hospitable for the invader. So we've left the person vulnerable to that invader. Now, we have to be reasonable about this. I'm not saying that we would want to have somebody have a fever of 105 or 106 or have the fever go on for a week at a time. But a temperature in moderation is an important part of the protection process. So the next time you go reaching for that fever reducer, just think about that for a minute and see if that's something that you can avoid, at least in the short term. So those are non-specific responses to any kind of invader to the body. And then the other type, kind of the opposite, is going to be very specific. So it is a specific immune response that comes about due to a particular bug. It's kind of like if you have a good response to your Aunt Mary, but not a great response to your Uncle Jim. Like you can change your response depending on who's in front of you, and so can our immune system. Now, the specific or adaptive type of immune response, there's really two types. The first one we're going to talk about is called the humoral response. And that is a response, an immunity that's generated by our B cells and our plasma T cells. And it was called humoral because it's found in the fluids of the human body. So going back to the, quote, humors of the body back in Hippocrates' day. So you can see on the screen there the different humors of the body. But anyhow, the humoral immunity is generated by our B cells and our plasma T cells. Now, this acts on extracellular microbes. Extracellular microbes are those that are outside of an individual cell. So in the tissue, floating around, as well as toxins would be included in that. Now, the humoral immune system or humoral branch here does not act on transplants or tumors. That's a job for another part, which we're going to talk about next. And again, what does this do? Specifically, it secretes antibodies. Now, without getting too technical or down in the weeds with this, you can think of the antibodies as almost like having a lock and a key. So the pathogen enters the body, and our B cells and plasma T cells are they're making different antibodies to try and see which one is the best killer of that particular invader. And they might go through hundreds or thousands of iterations before they finally find the one that works best. So it's, again, kind of like a lock and key. Imagine you're trying to get into a house and you have 1,000 keys that you're trying to find the best one to open the door. So that's kind of how you can think of this. So the body is going through all of those successive iterations to be able to find the perfect antibody. But the cool thing is that once they find it, those memory cells, those B cells, will remember that pathogen and the right antibody to produce, so that the next time you're exposed, you don't have to go through that whole process again. So that is the one type of specific or adaptive. The next type, kind of the other arm of the immune system, is cell-mediated. Now, cell-mediated uses specialized T cells in the body, and they recognize invaders through a multitude of ways, and then they tag them for destruction. They can also coordinate with other cells for their responses via chemicals that they secrete and things like that. Now, some types of cells that are involved in the cell-mediated arm of the immune system are helper T cells, cytotoxic T cells, natural killer cells, and just like the name sounds, those are like the assassins of the immune system, macrophages, etc. Now, the helper T cells are the ones that are really targeted in HIV and AIDS, and there is some evidence to show that perhaps COVID-19 also targets them. We don't have all the data in on that, but it is something that scientists are currently looking at. The specific or adaptive arm acts on the intracellular microbes and pathogens. So this would be things that are inside cells. So for example, viruses that get inside of a cell. So that is the specific or adaptive. And part of this involves the secretion of cytokines, which again are materials that can help communicate between cells, can increase inflammation. There's multiple varieties of cytokines. This can also trigger apoptosis of the invader. Now, what the heck is apoptosis? Apoptosis stands for, or is a word that means programmed cell death. And the way you can think of this is a cell is really trying to do what's best, not only for itself, but for the whole. So for the whole body. And when a cell is dysfunctional and can no longer support the health of the whole tissue, organ, or body, then it has a program in it that it should essentially kill itself. It should commit suicide to protect the health of the bigger tissue, organ, or body. And cancer is when the cell does not do apoptosis and just runs out of control and just keeps reproducing. But the specific or adaptive arm of the immune system, part of how it works, or one of the ways that it can work, is it can trigger apoptosis in these invader cells and essentially cause them to commit suicide. Now, in terms of types of immunity, because, that gets tossed around a lot, we're going to create a vaccine and we're going to have immunity, but we don't know how long it'll last for. There's essentially two different ways we look at immunity. The first way is it if it's natural or if it's artificial. And so natural is basically it comes about naturally, and artificial is something that requires intervention, like a lab. And then the second way we look at immunity is, was it active, meaning did your own body have to spend energy to perform this function, or was it passive, meaning that your body received it? So you can see this little grid here, this matrix, where I have kind of given you an example of each of the four types, the combinations that we can see. So if somebody has natural active immunity, it's because they successfully fought off the virus or the bacteria or whatever we're talking about. So they successfully fought it off, and now they have antibodies in their blood system. We can also have natural but passive. So it's something that happens regularly, naturally, but it's something the body is just receiving and is not producing. And an example of that is a mom breastfeeding a baby and passing along her immunity to various things through the breast milk. Artificial, again, that's something that happens artificially, think in a lab. But an artificial way of achieving an active immunity would be through a vaccine. So yes, it was artificially introduced, but then your body had to work and spend energy to create the antibodies. And then the final one, the last option is artificial and passive, meaning again, there was some intervention, and the body did not have to spend energy, it just received it. So a transfusion of immunoglobulins or antibodies would be a good example of that. So those are the four main types of immunity when we're talking about immunity. Now, we cannot have a conversation about our immune system without talking about stress. So stress right now, we have a rising cost of living. A lot of people are having stagnant wages, or they're losing their jobs because of COVID-19. Or business is down because of COVID-19. Many Americans do not have health care. People are scared. They're afraid for their safety. They're afraid for their family. They're afraid for their future. We also don't really have a lot of control, and we don't have a lot of answers. There's a lot of unknowns still, even several months into this. And all of those things lead to stress. But one thing I can tell you for sure about stress is that stress hormones shut down the immune system. As that adrenaline is pumping through our system and that cortisol is flowing, our immune system is effectively shut down, leaving us more and more and more vulnerable. So I highly recommend that if you're feeling stressed, that you do a few things every day to try and help mitigate that stress and to help protect your immune system. First of all, reducing that stress in whatever way you can manage, whether it's meditation, prayer, deep breathing exercises, yoga, a hobby, music, taking a walk, whatever that might be. Sleep. Getting enough deep, high quality sleep every day is super important because your body cannot heal and it cannot defend itself if it doesn't have appropriate rest. Limit sugars, preservatives, additives, anything that is empty of nutrition. Sugar, some studies have shown that every time you eat sugar, your immune system is reduced for 6 to 8 hours after you eat sugar. So just be aware of that. Eat nutrient-dense foods. Think of your superfoods. Think of local farmers. Healthy, raw, organic foods. Lots of veggies, lots of fruits. Stay hydrated with pure water. And a lot of people I know don't like the taste of water, but there's a lot of things that you can add essential oils. You can add fruits to it. Have it cold, have it warm. Depending on, I have some patients that only drink it hot, almost like tea, but that's how they get their water intake. Avoid harsh chemicals, whether that's cleaning your house or on your body, like facial peels and hair dyes and acrylic nails and all that kind of stuff. Getting appropriate sun exposure to increase vitamin D production. Vitamin D is one of our best protectors for our immune system. In combination with vitamin C and zinc, but vitamin D we can produce ourselves when we're out in the sun. So making sure that we're not going out, at 12 noon to 2 o'clock in the blazing sun with Crisco oil on our bodies, but we're getting out earlier in the morning and getting maybe 20 minutes of sun on our bodies. Really important for that vitamin D production and play. People are so stressed out these days. You have to step back and have some fun in your life. To help promote overall health in general. So those are just a few tips. Obviously, it's not all encompassing. Please go ahead and check out our website. We have other webinars on different things to help support your immune system. Here is my contact information. My email address is spelled Dr. Kelley with an EY. So if you send me an email and don't get a response, please double check your spelling. But our website is there. Again, it's chock full of information and other resources. So that wraps up today's presentation on the immune system. I hope you found the information useful and decide to take advantage of our special offer. Again, this is Dr. Kelley Mulhern from Thrive Wellness Center, where we believe your body is designed to thrive.